Recently, I came across the fascinating ideas of Oswald Spengler, a German intellectual from the early 20th century. Best known for his work, The Decline of the West, Spengler proposed that civilizations can be likened to living organisms. They are born, grow, mature, and eventually decline. This concept resonated deeply with an analogy I had been developing, comparing the life cycle of Western civilization to the structure of a tree. As I delved into Spengler's work, I realized that this analogy might be more universally applicable than I first thought. In my model, the life of the West mirrors the parts of a tree with three primary phases: birth, solidification, and expansion. These correspond to the roots, trunk, and branches of a tree. The tree of Western civilization has two main roots. The first root reaches deep into ancient Greece, beginning with the Homeric Age and the pre-Greek Mycenaean culture. Christopher Dawson, in his book, The Making of Europe, 1932, emphasized that Western culture owes much of its distinctive character, including science, philosophy, literature, art, political thought, and concepts of law and freedom, to the Greeks. The second route extends southeast into the heart of Judaism in the broader West Asian region. Christianity, which has shaped the West for nearly 2 millennia, emerged as a synthesis of Jewish spirituality and Greek philosophy. Interestingly, early Christianity often defined itself in opposition to both its Jewish roots and the Hellenic culture of its time, creating a unique identity that blended but also distinguished itself from its origins. Smaller routes spread both north and south. The northern route draws from the Proto-European tribes, the Germanic peoples, Eastern European steppe tribes, and Nordic cultures. An offshoot of this route stretches into modern-day Russia and Mongolia, reflecting the influence of the Huns on Europe. To the south, the route reaches the vibrant Egyptian civilization and pre-Islamic Arabian cultures, contributing spiritual and intellectual elements, including Manichaeism and Gnosticism, that interacted with Western religious thought. Surprisingly, another significant root of Western civilization stems from Islam. During the 9th and 10th centuries, a period when Western Europe faced invasions from Saracens, Vikings, and Magyars, Islamic cultures flourished across Spain, North Africa, and the Middle East. Dawson described medieval Islamic Spain as the richest and most advanced region of Western Europe at the time, with sophisticated cities reminiscent of the Roman Empire, contrasting starkly with the relatively undeveloped towns of France and Germany. The West owes much to early Islamic scholars for their contributions to mathematics, like algebra from Al-Khwarizmi, astronomy, philosophy, notably Avicenna, and the preservation of Greek works. The trunk of the tree represents the solidification phase of Western civilization, spanning from the so-called Dark Ages through the medieval period. Emerging from the cultural soil of the Roman Empire, the early sapling of Christianity faced many challenges: drought, resolved by the sacrifices of martyrs; disease, like the heresies of Gnosticism and Arianism, countered by church leaders like Athanasius; and high winds, barbarian invasions mitigated by Roman protection. Like a young tree needing a stake for support, Christianity relied on the Roman Empire's structure for stability, adopting its hierarchy, laws, and order. This support helped prevent the early Christian faith from fragmenting into countless sects, although divisions still occurred, leading to groups like the Nestorians, Monophysites, and Arians. Despite the collapse of Rome, the Christian trunk endured, strengthened by church councils, the canonization of the Bible, and the establishment of bishoprics. Geographically, this trunk firmly rooted itself in Europe, with Roman cultural influence homogenizing many barbarian tribes and fostering a unified Christian identity. The so-called Dark Ages were less a period of cultural stagnation and more a time of consolidation, laying the groundwork for what would become Christendom. Scholars like Cassiodorus preserved classical Greek and Christian texts, ensuring the survival of ancient knowledge. Around the turn of the millennium, the tree of the West split into two major branches: the Catholic West and the Orthodox East, driven by political and theological conflicts. The once unified Christian church divided, creating lasting religious and cultural rifts that still persist today. During the medieval period, both branches flourished. the Catholic West experienced a cultural renaissance under Charlemagne, embracing chivalry, romanticism, and intellectual growth. Meanwhile, the Orthodox East preserved classical traditions through the Byzantine Empire. The Protestant Reformation in the 16th century introduced yet another branch, led by figures like Martin Luther, John Calvin, and Ulrich Zwingli. This split challenged both Catholic and Orthodox traditions, sparking religious and political upheaval and reshaping the religious landscape of Europe. This tree analogy helps us visualize Western civilization's complex history, its deep roots in ancient traditions, the solidifying trunk of medieval Christendom, and the ever-growing branches of cultural and religious development. Understanding this model allows us to appreciate how interconnected influences from Greece, Judaism, Islam, and beyond have shaped the West into what it is today.